Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, Facebook family, YouTube family. So excited to be on tonight. Apologize for not being on last week. Last week, had the awesome privilege of being at the Pastors and Leaders Conference held by Dr. Curran B. Lee out of Berean Christian Church. Phenomenal experience. And I was excited just to be there, to be in the midst of all the brothers and sisters as we were growing, as he was pouring out to us. And so I did not get the opportunity. And then that Monday night, I'm just going to be real honest with y'all. Dr. Terry K. Anderson was preaching up a storm. And so after I was done, I was out for the night. Tonight's conversation is Pastor's Appreciation Month. What is it? Why do we celebrate it? It is that time that we take a special moment just to appreciate that person that has been leading us spiritually, guiding us, giving us direction, taking time out of his day. I got to tell y'all why I think before I get into the subject matter of tonight, self-care is just as important as congregational care. One of the reasons I thought this was a poignant topic to talk about tonight was because the other day there was a conversation on Facebook that I wanted to bless you all with that was made by a young lady. She basically told me that pastoral care, the job of the pastor, might be one of the easiest jobs that exists today. She was saying that how could somebody step away from their job, from their profession, whatever that profession may be, to take on the task or the role of a pastor, because we have nothing to do as a pastor. This is what a young Christian lady pointed out to me. Now, we know that the terminology Christian, Christ follower, is one that is very used very widely. You do not have to be at a church to be a Christian. But here it is. It is more than likely, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, that you're going to find yourself around like folk that are Christians. And one of the things that she said was congregational care is the easiest part. So I started getting me thinking, how is it as pastors do we do the job that we do? And why is self-care just as important as congregational care? One of the things that I want to bring to conversation is some things that happened to me this week, which is my joy as a pastor to do. In fact, that's one of the things that I love doing. One of my favorite parts of pastoring, and that is when members are going through decisive decision making in their life and they seek counseling from their pastor, their family's pastor. One of the situations I was in this week was a longtime deacon had went on to be with the Lord. Last Sunday, I lost a dear brother, Deacon Green. He had been sick for some years. He had dealt with dementia, but phenomenal man of God. Here it is. I am now on the phone while I'm on this ministry experience in at the Pastors and Leaders Conference, talking with his son. We're putting the program together. We're working through these things. We're talking about the right people to be in that place, the thing that his mother is looking for to honor his father, decisions that have to be made. And here it is. This is my joy. This, as a pastor, is a joy of mine, to be able to walk a family through the process and help them in the process of grieving. Not because I love to deal with people in grief, but I love to be there for people in their times of need. So it does not feel like a burden to me. A lot of times as a pastor, we can be so engrossed in the work of ministry, in the work of doing the things we love to do, that here it is, we forget we forget how to take care of ourselves. And we find ourselves in a place where we're wondering, do we ever take a moment away? So one of the conversations that we had during this time was, how can we make this the best example of love for his fathers, to represent his father's life? And as we were talking, as we were working, as I was praying with him, as we were walking through it, as I could help him and he would tell me what his mother desired and what he desired, it helped me as a pastor to even more see the necessity for congregational care. And so, to those comments that was given to me, that pastors have the easiest job in the world, in some sense, they might be right. In some sense, they might be right. Not because the task of pastoring is easy, but because the love of pastoring makes it easy. There are things that we are willing to put up with and deal with and go through hardships with, not because it's easy and just anybody can do it. But we, as one pastor, I love to hear say it this way: I was made for this. I was made to be there in the hard times of people's lives. And so, as we're celebrating Pastors Appreciation Month, I want to tell you some things that are getting ready to go on before we get into tonight's full conversation of self-care. Is as important of pastor as self-care is just as important as congregational care. And wherever you're chiming in from, I would love if you would say hi. Let us know where you're chiming in from. We are fully live. Like and share this video as we're getting ready to dive deep tonight on what self-care is for the pastor and how we can implement some of those things in our life. Some of the things we have coming up is we're getting ready to honor some of our pastors, some of the mentors in my life this month. The next video you'll see, which is going to be posted tomorrow, is one of a deep dive discussion I did with one of my mentors, Pastor George McCullough, phenomenal pastor out of Auburn, Alabama, Opelika, Alabama. He is just a leader amongst leaders, and I'm grateful to have his sage wisdom in my life. And so we'll have him tomorrow night. We're going to be planning on every week adding some new pastor that is going to highlight that has been a mentor personally to me and has raised me. Now, this is not all my mentors. I could do a whole season just off my mentors alone, but these are some of them. Then me and my wife, we have been discussing something, pastors, and I want y'all to stay tuned to this. I'm going to make this announcement at the end, but I'm excited about what we're planning on doing in December, and I want to make it known tonight, our hopes and our dreams, a passion of ours that we're working on for this December as a way to honor you all as pastors. And so stay with us as we're getting ready to dive into this thing tonight. So, what is self-care and what is congregational care? I think most of us as pastors and those that are member of churches understand congregational care when it comes to the pastor. It is being there when the congregation needs you. It is being at the hospital room when the members are going through the hardest times of their life. It is in the moments of being, it is a cooperating work that in the moments, not just the pastor caring for the congregation, but the congregation caring for the pastor. During Pastors Appreciation Month, you'll have pastors that we'll see on Facebook, their congregation are shouting them out for the wonderful works that they have done, honoring them in those moments. It is the moments where they are taking time out of their busy schedules to say, Pastor, we thank you for your work. We thank you for caring for us, and we want to return that care for you. But I want to say something tonight, because I think many times we wait on others to care for us when we have to implement some self-care tactics ourselves. We have to put in some places, some necessities, and some important places that we take pause out for our own self-care. We take a step back from congregational care and being cared for by the congregation and taking time to assess our own needs. My wife did a post that I want to shout out tonight. Her post said that part of doing what you have to do is making sure you take care of yourself and do not focus on the wants of your children. I'll say that again because I'm paraphrasing. She said part of doing what you need to do is making sure their needs are taken care of, but understanding that you're not to place their wants over your needs. I'll say it again because some people may miss that. I did not say you place their needs over your needs. I did not say you place your wants over their needs. I said you do not place their wants over your needs. And Pastor, that touched me so dearly because how many of us have placed our congregation's wants over their needs? I'm talking about something they desire of you, but you're burnt out. You have reached the pinnacle and the peak of your workload. And here it is. You're trying to stretch more, but the problem is you've not taken any self-assessment. I have a good friend of mine every week, twice a month, it's not every week, twice a month, he goes and gets a manicure, a pedicure, and he goes to his favorite spot and he sits for a solid hour and does not allow anybody to get through to him. He cuts his phone off. He has a separate phone that only a few deacons know the number to, and his wife. And he cuts off his phone. Here's the reason. Because he knows that if those deacons call on that other phone number and they know his day, they know his schedule well enough to know that his phone is off, that here it is, that something detrimental or very important has happened. Something serious that needs his attention has happened. If his wife is in need of getting in touch with him, she understands she has access to that other number. But he takes time away, here it is, to get back into sync with the Lord. Because many times what we have done is we burnt ourselves out to the point that we just don't know what we're going to do. We don't know how to take the next step because we are, here it is, taking care of everyone else's step. And I need to help somebody tonight because the truth of the matter, guys, is we have to understand the only way we can be the best version of pastor for our congregation is if we're the best version of Christian for our Father, our Heavenly Father. If we are burnt out and we're not spending time in prayer, we're not taking time to give our mind ease, we're not spending time to allow God to speak to us, what happens is we are running on fumes. And so here's what ends up happening. We will be running on fumes for so long that we're looking for appreciation and care from our congregation, when the care we're looking for is really on us and it's our responsibility. The time that we need to set aside to take away is on us. Setting parameters in our day is on us. In the book, in the book, Ordering Your Private World, he says every day on his schedule, 6 to 8 is booked, no matter what. It was asked by one of his members one time, that it was asked, Pastor, what are you doing that early in the morning that you're already booked? He said, that's my time with God. And here it is. Most times, we do not prioritize our time for self and God until it's after we need it. We do not prioritize it before we get into a detrimental state. And I want to help somebody because as we're celebrating Pastors Appreciation Month, I can say everything that our congregation needs to do for us. But the truth of the matter is, there's some stuff we got to do for ourselves. And setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, is number one. Can I just be honest? One of my struggles, I just got through having a phenomenal interview with my brother, Pastor Tyrone Gaddis. And here it is. He blessed me. He blessed me. He gave me an opportunity, and he's been doing all week long. All week long, he allows pastors, all month long, he's allowing pastors to share their story. And he asked me, what was the most detrimental time of your life as pastoring, when you had to pastor and preach hope and you were going through a hopeless situation yourself? And I told him the situation that I was going through. I was telling him how I got into a depressive state. But can I tell you, as I look back over that time in my life, one of the biggest things I recognized, I did not set healthy boundaries. I allowed people into private areas of my life that they did not earn. And I'll tell you something. One of the things that my congregation, and I love them to death. They are phenomenal. But one of the things that I had to share with some congregational members was, sadly, I'm going to love my congregation the same. But that does not mean all have earned the same time with me. I'll say that again. I'm going to love them the same, but all has not earned the same time with me. Let's take it to scripture. Because sometimes we think that we're taking stuff out of context. Jesus, when he heals Jairus' daughter, takes in 3 other disciples. He calls 3 other disciples in. When Jesus goes to the Mount of Transfiguration, he takes 3 disciples with him. Jesus, in the midst of the 12, who were already his close and tight group, had a selective group in that 12. There were his leaders that he could reveal himself to. Can I tell you something? Not everybody leaders can we reveal ourselves to, and we know this. There are some folk that if we let them know how vulnerable we can be, how human we are, it will change their perspective of us. And the truth of the matter is, not everyone deserves that same amount of time. Some have to show they want the time. Some got to show they want the time. The truth of the matter is, not everyone is shown they want your time. Not everyone is shown they want the leadership. Because here it is. Leadership requires hearing what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear. So the first thing that you need to do in self-care is setting healthy boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries. Here's the second thing. Someone write that in the chat. Setting healthy boundaries is necessary. That's not just for pastors. That's for anybody, especially leaders. Setting healthy boundaries. Here's the second thing that we got to do. Second thing we have to do is developing disconnected interests. Here's the reason why. We can be interested in certain things, but what we can tend to do as pastors, most of our interests are found and connected to church. You got to have some interests that have nothing to do with worship on Sunday morning. You got to have some things, and that's one reason they talk about pastors that like to golf, but that's one reason I applaud every pastor that golfs, plays basketball, does whatever they love to do on their quiet time and their private time, and spends time away, and it's not just ministry. Here's the reality. Most of us are usually continually focused on what's the next thing. Even as I'm talking to you all, I'm writing down, I'm working on how we as Bethlehem can address some of the crises that are going on in our nation right now. We've just had a hurricane. We have the water crisis in Mississippi. I'm racking in my brain. I've talked to my deacons already about it, and I'm meeting with them next week about it. Well, how do we address some of these things? And as BMBC, be the house of bread God has called us to be an ability to feed those outside. That's what's on my mind. It's always, I get joy in it, but here it is. I have to develop outside joys. Here's the reason why. Because a lot of times, people will only know you for what you show them. And if you show them the only part of you is ministry, and when I say ministry, working with folk, dealing with folk, dealing with crisis, then guess what? The only times they come to you are crisis, dealing with folk, working with folk. You have to broaden your own spectrum for yourself. Take that time out. If it ain't nothing, I got to tell you something. We're doing different budget things now, but oh my God, about 3 years ago, every month, I would do it before a church meeting and before a deacon's meeting. And that wasn't because my deacon meeting was bad or my church meeting was bad. I did not want to have any previous stress on me before the meeting. So I would go and get a massage from Massager. I went ahead and paid the $60, and every month I would show up to my regular scheduled massage. That was my getaway. That was my time to be relaxed and at peace. For some pastors, it might be a game council. It's your way to disconnect. You have to have a way of disconnecting. So the first thing is you got to set healthy boundaries. There's a time set aside, a place set aside for people to understand this is my private area. Not everyone belongs in this area. There is pastor, but then there are those who desire to soak up from me. And they might, here it is, they might get a little bit more of you than other folk. But here, you still need some time by yourself, healthy boundaries. Then you have to schedule some disconnect activities. Some things that do not require you to be a part of the everyday rigmarole. Here's the last thing that I want to bless you with tonight. Not only do you have to disconnect, not only do you have to set aside time away and put healthy parameters around, but you gotta set some disconnect. You gotta develop some activities to disconnect. But here's the last thing. You have to, if you're going to develop self-care, you have to be unapologetic about your self-care. Why did I say you have to be unapologetic about your self-care? Because we live in a world that they will never understand what leadership looks like. Usually the people who desire the position of leadership but do not have the tenacity or the stick-to-itness for leadership are judgmental of those that are in leadership. They are always worried about what you're doing and how you're doing. Now, here it is. There has to be accountability for us because we are God's chosen. But I need to tell you something. There's a difference between accountability and judgment. There's a difference between should you and you shouldn't because it's you. Did you hear me? I don't have to always be on for me to do my job well. It's nothing wrong with you having what you need and what you desire and taking time away. But that's why you have to set healthy parameters. You have to put some functions in place so folk cannot just feel like they can come to you any old way and tell you about your life. As a pastor, we are public personas. We are there for the people. There's a part of you that people will never be able to see. Because here it is, they won't be there to carry you through it. So I want to encourage you as we're celebrating Pastor's Appreciation. So we have pastors. If you're watching this and you have a pastor that you know works hard, you know strives, here's what I'm asking you to do. If you're watching this and that sounds like your pastor, what I want you to do is tell your pastor, Pastor, listen, ask him, don't tell him, ask him, have you taken some time out for yourself lately? And here it is. You might not be financially at the place where you're able to pour into your pastor and bless him to send him on a trip. But can I tell you what you can do? Here's 3 things that the congregation can do to help themselves set healthy parameters, to develop disconnecting activities, and to be unapologetic about self-care. Here's 3 things you can do. Here's the first thing. Start where you are with giving. Be a blessing to your church so he's not always concerned about if he takes time away, finances are going to go down. Because many pastors carry the weight of if I'm not preaching that Sunday, I already know what's getting ready to happen. Be consistent in your membership and encouraging in your fellowship. First thing, consistent in your membership and encouraging in your fellowship. I got to tell you, every pastor, I don't care who he is, every pastor knows everywhere he's messing up already from himself. But he gets an amen from the congregation. I was having a conversation with one of my deacons several months ago, and he was asking me about something. I said, Deacon, you don't know, I heard this. He said, Pastor, I had no clue. How do you handle hearing the negative and still preaching and loving us as if it's positive? He said, I would really believe from the way you treat us that everything you hear is positive. I said, because I focus on the positive people and not the negative people. That's not easy. But I need to tell you, here it is. Here it is. In your fellowship, if you're positive, I want to bless you with this. If in your fellowship you're positive, what will happen is when there is something that you see and you're praying about that your pastor may not see, and you're trying to talk to your pastor about it, he's more attentive to you than the one who's been consistently negative. Because have you ever heard the story about the boy who cried wolf? If I keep hearing bad and good things are going on, then I just expect bad from you, so I take it with a grain of salt. But if you're the one that's encouraging me every single Sunday, you're the one that when I see you, tell me about what's going on good in the church, that when you come to me and say, Pastor, can I have a moment to talk to you about something that's troubling to me? They're going to be attentive to that, because here it is. You have put yourself in a place to be closer to them in hearing. So, first thing is, make sure your membership is consistent. Make sure your fellowship is positive. Here's the last thing. If you want to help your pastor to develop some parameters, healthy parameters in his life, so he has what he needs, and he has the time to let God to pour back into him. One of the hardest times for pastors is Monday, because we're questioning everything we did on Sunday. So if you want to help them develop healthy parameters, disconnecting activities, and become unapologetic about their self-care, here's the last thing. Be cooperative in their care. If you have been consistent in membership, you are positive in fellowship, and now you are assisting in their self-care, what happens is this. You find areas and places to encourage your pastor. Look for retreats and then talk to the church about sending your pastor to that retreat. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, one of the best things that you can ever do for your pastor is want to see them grow. Encouraging them as they're going out there and doing the work to grow. Letting them know it's going to be all right. When you see a need and you can address that need, addressing that need. Most preachers, they say roughly, and don't get me, I forget the figures now, but I want to say it's something like 75% of pastors or more are bivocational. 75% of pastors or more are bivocational. Bivocational, hear me, bivocational pastors. And here it is, only 1% of pastors are single family income that are not bivocational. So here it is. Some things the pastor cannot afford to do, but we have a church that can. And we might want to start to implement, because some pastors know the budget. We already know the budget. So we'll tell them, no, we don't need that. But if we have congregants that are pushing the same congregation to care for the pastor, then what happens is it takes the weight off the pastor to ask for the things he needs. Be assisting in his care. Don't only be assisting in the care of the church. Be assisting in your pastor's care. Be assisting in the one who cares for your soul. Love on them. Encourage them. Can I tell you one of the greatest assistants you could add to your pastor? A note of how good he's done on Facebook. So many pastors receive DMs of what they did wrong the week. Be the encouraging word that they see every week. Man, I got to tell y'all this, and I'm getting ready to head out. I got to tell y'all the surprise at the end. I told y'all, me and my wife were planning on doing something great Some of the house is under the weather right now. She might be under the weather. I'd have her come in with me to share this. But here it is. Here it is. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me during one of my struggles at Bethlehem. I had 3 members. They didn't do it every Sunday, but it happened to be every one would be on each Sunday, right? So after every sermon, they pointed out a place in the message that touched their heart, letting me know that they were listening. And they showed me how it was applicable to their life. Man, that encouraging, when I was hearing people say things that were discouraging, just you will never know the impact that did for me in my preaching. Because although I do not preach for the encouragement, when I know the word of God is landing in the people of God, and that it's making the impact that God has intended, oh my God, it sets your soul on fire. You're ready to preach the next Sunday. You're ready for the next word, even if it's just one that's being impacted. And so I want to encourage you. Encourage your pastor. If you're a pastor, take this time out. We have too many of our brothers, especially since we're talking about the brotherhood. We have too many of our brothers that are allowing themselves to get to a place of depression before addressing it. They see themselves going down to a downward spiral, and they will not set healthy boundaries. They will not tell people. My wife was telling me about a young lady and her husband. The members come into the church parsonage without asking. I'm talking about they'll be in the house and they'll hear somebody unlock the door and they'll walk on in. There's no healthy boundary set. And for that matter, unhealthy boundaries. I might have to let you know who I am. You come in my house with my wife. But that's me. Got to set healthy boundaries. Too many of us get into a place where we can't carry the load. Pastors taking their lives at young ages and old ages. They are leaving this world. They're quitting the ministry and stepping away because of the pain and the heartache and the church hurt that they've been dealing with. You have to set healthy boundaries. Then you got to disconnect from all of it. There has to be a time where you are excited about doing something that does not have to do with the church. Me and my wife, we were talking several weeks ago about martyrdom and pastorhood. How many pastors will fall on the sword and carry a load. And so I told her, I said, it's the same way with moms. I said, you're addressing it now. Moms will feel like they cannot have any time for themselves because they have this little one. Married and single moms. Moms with communities and moms with small communities still feel like I have to do everything on my own. Pastors feel the same way. I got to do it. If I'm not there, it's not going to happen. If I don't show up, this is not going to happen. And I need you to know, you have to disconnect from it. Then you got to be unapologetic. You can't let people make you feel bad about taking care of yourself. Here it is. So, me and my wife, we've been talking, y'all. Last year, we were able to do something phenomenal. Last year, we want to say it was 25. Christina, how many people did do you know, send out for trips last year for dinner? I think it was about 20 people we paid for dinners last year. We're looking in December to do something phenomenal. What I want you all to do is message me if you are on here. What we want to do is we want to be a blessing, and we want to put on an event for our pastors and their wives. We want to get a chance to help you disconnect. This night will not be connected to church. It will not be in a church event. This will be a place where you and your wife are able to be romantic with one another and not be judged by dancing clothes. I remember me and my wife, we were dancing somewhere one time. They said, Reverend, you supposed to be a preacher. I said, and I wasn't listening to Fred Hammond. I said, I was listening to Anthony Hamilton when I was with my wife. And so y'all can fill in the gaps with that. I said, so we want to create an opportunity to bring couples together that are leaders, that are spiritual leaders. And here's the reason why. So many times we are judged by others when we go out, and then we have to leave and go far away. We want to do something special, and it's a one night. And so we'll bring more information as we are finalizing some things and getting it together. But I want to share that with you because I believe in this season, we really have to come together if we want to see our marriages, not just our ministry survive, but our marriages survive. We can't, many of us are having thriving ministries, and here it is, but we have dying or decaying marriages. And so we want to develop an activity, develop atmosphere for our couples to come together. So you all stay tuned. We'll get more information. We'll let you all know what's getting ready to come. Tomorrow night will be the actual episode of Pulpit View with me and Dr. McCullough. I'm excited about that episode. Please tune in as we are excited to hear what he has to say in ministry. This is one of my mentors. I've had several phenomenal mentors, and I will not be able to get them all in this month because it's too many of them to count that have sown and poured back into me. Those of Dr. George McCullough, those of Dr. Raymond Cochran, those of Dr. Clifford Jones and Dr. KG Jones, my late pastor, who was not just a father in the ministry, but a friend of mine in the ministry and mentor, Dr. C.P. Noble. So many that have poured in and allowed me to pour out of a place of hurt, a place of brokenness, and then they helped fill back up with encouraging words. And so we want to take this moment out to highlight some of them, and I'm excited for that. My big brother in the ministry, Dr. Pastor Daryl Caldwell, so many that God has blessed me with. You have seen some that have poured into me already. So tomorrow night at 8 o'clock will be Dr. George McCullough. You all tune in. I'm excited for this. I want you all, please, in this month, if you don't do anything in this month and you're a pastor, do these 3 things, please, for me. Set healthy parameters. Set some healthy boundaries for yourself, that people don't feel like they have unlimited access to you at all times. Here it is. Make sure that you develop something for yourself to disconnect from everything else that you have to do. Sometimes disconnecting is necessary. Every now and then I got to cut my phone off to get it to work properly. Before I turn it back on, you got to disconnect. Last thing, don't be unapologetic about helping yourself and doing what you need for yourself. Be unapologetic. Don't apologize to anybody for doing what you need to do to make sure you can continue to run the race. As long as it's in line with the word of God, there's no reason for you to apologize to man. Have a phenomenal night tonight. Listen, thank y'all for tuning in with me tonight. Thank you all for sticking with me tonight. Please message me. Message me if there's any way I can pray for you, any way that I can assist you during this time. You might need somebody to just come in and do a workshop for you and talk to your congregation about some ways they can implement some stuff in your congregation to be an assistance to you and helping you manage the workload. We don't do it by ourselves. If there's any way, please message me. If there is somebody, here it is, somebody that's made an impact in your life, that is a pastor. He has been a phenomenal brother. And I'm talking about brothers here because we're dealing with the brotherhood. We need men to help strengthen men. So what I'm asking you is message me. Let me know who that brother may be so I can get some time in with him and interview them, because I love sharing with men of God that have been blessing to other men and help them to develop Christian manhood in a special way. Thank you all so much. If you have not done it yet, here's all I'm going to ask for tonight. I ask you for yourself to help set healthy boundaries, to develop some disconnecting activities, and to be unapologetic about your self-care. But for me, can you do something for me, please? Could you like and share this video? If you're on Facebook, join our brotherhood group. It is a group that we're building to encourage one another in our marriages, in our families, to be the best version of man that God has made us to be. And then if you're on YouTube, what we're going to ask is you go right over to YouTube, look up the pulpit view. I'm right there on the pulpit view. You'll see my smiling face. And what I'm going to ask you to do is subscribe to my pulpit view channel. Stephen Garrett is the channel. This is what I'm asking you to do because I want to share with you all. There's a way that we can keep one another not just accountable, but here it is. We can build one another up to be better. Listen, I love y'all. Have a phenomenal night. And I hope y'all had a restful Monday. Be blessed. Peace.